I'm not really that much of a jerk, am I? Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast about everything and anything. Mark Kawasaki, Farad Rantula, welcome, y'all.
Hello, hello. How you doing?
Hello.
Excellent.
Are we? Sorry, I'm like, it's slow moments for me, but there we go. It's delayed. I was like, it was still saying off air.
Oh, really?
We are on air.
I'm shocked that
everyone.
I'm shocked that Hangout has problems. I'm totally shocked.
It is shocking.
So we were talking about right before the show. We've got a Slack instance for Hacking Business Technology, and that's where we talk about who's going to be on the show and what topics are we talking about. And you know, sometimes we're on vacation, so we're not actually checking Slack and posting that we're not going to be hosting. And that's why some weeks we've been missing. And so apologies to our audience for doing that. But my question to Farah was, Farah, are you on Slack?
And I said I was slacking.
No, you said you were a slacker.
I'm slacker, yeah.
Which has double connotation, right? Because a slacker wouldn't have signed up, but slacker as a user, that means that you are slacking, right? So you actually are on it, or you aren't?
I aren't. I am not.
That must be Canadian sneaking through, because you've been there for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I was gone for 2 weeks, and I'm trying to be one of those crazy homeowner people and hiding all my technology in different places. So I just returned, and I couldn't find my Mac for the last half an hour. I forgot where I put it.
Thus the new scenery.
Yes, thus I'm on my iPad and it's sitting on a bookshelf, and I was hoping that it would work. So.
Oh, it looks great, actually. You're really well lit there, is what I'm saying.
I've got the Mark Kawasaki lighting happening.
So we have to, obligatorily, we have to talk about, since you were on vacation, we have to talk about unplugging, right? That's the hot topic to talk about, because it's a fetish to, like, not have your phone anymore.
It really is.
It really, truly is.
Did you unplug?
I did. It was hard for the first, like, I had, like, withdrawal and, you know, wanted to check back in, and then, you know, it took me 3-4 days, and then I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm unplugged, and it was actually really refreshing. Including, like, I think my husband was more active on Facebook than I was, so that was, like, everything. I went all out instead of all in.
And it was the most meaningful experience of your life?
Yeah, and no, seriously, you know, I didn't even take that many pictures, so I really, you know, and it was my daughter's first time, you know, traveling. I just enjoyed the experience and wanted to revel in the memories and not have to worry about and capturing it all and emailing it out to, it's done.
That's what most people list as, like, the #1 reason that they don't stop using a data phone, because they miss having a photo in their camera in their pocket at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was challenging at first. Even for work, it's so hard. But at some point, you have to remember that, you know, to be truly productive and useful, you need to relax and refresh, right? Mm-hmm. And if somebody's going to hold you against having your personal time off and call it pretend time off and disrespect that, then don't work for that company.
I've said it plenty of times that doing yoga is, like, the best thing ever, because it stops everything for an hour in the middle of the day, because it's usually at noon at some studios, and that's the one that I go to. And then at 1 o'clock I come back to work, and I'm so refreshed. It's like a new morning. It's like I've got 2 morning rituals per day. Think about that.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it's like a perfect time to just check email and just do that for like 15 minutes and then just disregard everything until noon. And then do it for 15 minutes and then disregard everything again.
Yeah, that's an important. So you get to relax and refresh through yoga. I think that was the very intentional purpose of having people be given a noon hour break. But how many corporations today indirectly expect their people to continue working, to respond at all hours of the day? You know, we have meetings. I think every day I have a meeting that crosses over lunch, because that's the only open spot. It's not really an open spot.
Yeah, culture shift. You got to protect yourself, because otherwise it turns into an abusive situation. So we have a ton of topics to talk about. We talked about Slack. My company's using Slack quite a bit now. We've been using it on HackBiz Tech. There's a couple channels that are really cool. One's about just what we're going to be talking about this week, which is a great way for us to share links. And then we have the standard operating procedure, what do I call it, channel that we talk about how to post the episode and how to get started. And someone else started it. I didn't start it. Hooper did it. The week that I was gone or whatever. I thought that was a brilliant use case. And then it's a quick way. Like all you have to do is just pay attention to what's going on there. It's just it's great for attention. Is really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the news that I shared on there this week, there's one thing that I'm not sure that we've really talked about it, and I haven't had a chance to watch last week's episode yet, but have we talked about this concept of bimodal IT that everyone's talking about all the time now?
Yeah, we touched on it, and we kind of, I don't know.
What was the conclusion? What was your conclusion? Summarize it then.
I think Matt and I were in a little different place about it, but I thought it was a little too simplistic. That's kind of our take on a lot of things. You can't just say it's one way or the other. But my main beef with it was that there seems to be this emphasis on operational stuff being somehow more risky than the innovative programming type changes, and so you need a different speed for your back-end operational things with security and risk and all that than you do for agile, coding changes for what users experience. And I think it's often the opposite. So I don't really see how you can say that one is slow and one is fast, or one is risky and one is not.
I think from like a safety perspective, right? Like, am I going to have a job after such and such happens? I think operations definitely, like, I've heard several examples where people have said, that they find shadow IT and then, okay, they're using this great system and we're making money with it. How do we get it in IT? And we didn't budget for this system. We don't have the staff for the system. We need training for the system or contractors for the system. Like, you sort of get stuck with this stuff, and then there's nothing that you can do about it. Like, you have to swallow it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the really good, if you actually get to what I would call application development, cloud enablement, panacea, I think the only way to get there is to train all your employees about how to leverage cloud services. Find a new app, find a cool new app. Awesome. Try it out. Make sure that you use this naming convention. Make sure that you're not putting this data out there. It's the same conversation that you have to have around IT security, because if you're not enabling users and informing them and educating them before these risks occur, guess what? They're going to sign up for 1,000 trials. They'll have your company data all over that place. They'll name it johnsmith@company.com. Like, it'll be terrible. So just make sure that you set in guidelines. Give them practical guidance.
Well, yeah, giving them a space. And I think you had the key word, right? Enabling. IT needs to be the enabler, right? They can't control and take it in, because the reality is you'll never have enough resources. So use these people's resources and their skill set. And don't assume that they are as uninformed or uneducated as maybe before, where IT used to be a specialized, certain only skill. Enable and empower. I think that's so important.
But that really is only about like the cloud shift specifically. Like, that's not necessarily bimodal. Like, it's part of bimodal IT, and it's definitely part of that mode 2-ish kind of, because it could actually be foundational elements or something that's mode 1, some commodity-based solution, ERP, for example. Some people have realized that that's part of mode 1, and it moves slow, and that can work. You can still do agile software development and continuous delivery in mode 1, but it's going to look different. It's just going to behave different. It'll be a slower beast. And so what I find interesting about it is that I think it's funny to pigeonhole into 2 bimodal IT, huh?
Yeah.
Like, why not be multimodal? or omnimodal, or like, why are we pigeonholing this?
Right, or just right fit. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And so a recent revelation that someone had, I believe it was our CEO actually at Maryville, he said you can't really innovate a business process in an existing warehouse. You kind of need to build a second warehouse. And that really is like the same thing, right? Like, make sure that you're getting your consistent services, and just, you got to support them, and don't tear down the building, and don't put new stuff in there unless you should be putting new stuff in there. And then this mode 2 has to go up at the same time. And think about what that means from a budgeting and an investment standpoint to big companies.
I like that. That's a really great idea.
But some of them are already doing that. Some of the really innovative companies.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. It's really interesting to talk about. So in other news, Qualcomm disclosed plans to cut 15% of its workforce to reduce costs by $1.4 billion. And they may actually split off into separate companies. So people are saying that it's the end of Qualcomm.
I don't even know what Qualcomm does anymore, except maybe in other parts of the world. I don't really know. It's like AOL. I mean, they're like a multi-billion-dollar company, and I have no idea what they do either.
Chip design, patent licensing. Big into patents, really big into mobile patents. They've got lots of stuff that's patented within the iPhone and patented within BlackBerry too.
Yeah.
So they're the original chip maker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so 15%. That's what, $1 billion? You said $1 billion. That's
1.4.
Wow.
So it sounds like they're just bloated. But you feel so bad that so many people that are out of work, and you hear about this stuff all the time, and it's just who is making these decisions, and how difficult is that to make, to say, we're going to lay off all these people. And it's sort of, it always comes back to the same thing, is just make sure that you're relevant and can be picked up and network.
Here's the thing, right? So what types of jobs are they cutting? And those skills that they are now, are they getting rid of because they're trying to make efficiencies? I mean, look at Amazon, right? So they finally posted a profit, and with that, they also were talking about having robots in warehouses that are going to start doing the packaging and grab the product, because it's actually not only more efficient, by holding humans. So instead of people getting angry about either jobs becoming replaced by robots or shipped off to other parts of the world, what skills can these people, obtain that become more relevant for what we need in the marketplace today and tomorrow, right? It's having flash foresight. So
or working on a guaranteed minimum wage or income.
Which is also, because then you just ask for less hours, and then, you really are still on the welfare payments, and they haven't reduced anything. Like, yeah.
Oh, we're going to fix this problem on this podcast? Oh, yes!
I knew that would get you, Matt.
Common living wage. That's the only way to fix it.
It is. I believe that too.
Make enough money to live on. And I think, you use America as a pilot program and then expand it to the rest of the world.
I'm sure Trump will help us with that.
Oh, no, we're going to touch that on this podcast?
All right, I'll shift gears for us. So for me, the most interesting thing this week, there was some really interesting news in the area of transparency in the corporate world, and that was with Google. I don't know if you read the story, but this woman decided to post her salary, at least internally within Google, on their social network, and it went viral. And it ended up being 5% of Google posted their salary on this spreadsheet that was going around. And what's that?
The big secret spreadsheet. That's what the headline read.
Yeah, the big secret spreadsheet. So there was some pretty serious crackdown on her, which I was surprised at. I mean, if anyone's going to lead in the space, I would expect it to be someone like Google. But I don't know if it was a personality thing, a direct manager or whatnot, but she took a lot of heat for it. But the interesting part was, I mean, we've been talking about this type of transparency for a long time, and I knew this was coming. We've even talked about sharing salaries specifically, so it was really fascinating to see this actually happening in the real world. But they have this concept at Google called peer bonuses. which I think is awesome. So you have the ability as an employee to give another employee a bonus of $150. And what was interesting at Google is they found out through this process that the manager can actually stop a peer bonus, but no one at Google had ever heard of that actually happening. But she was stopped from getting 7 peer bonuses. So there are at least 7 people that actually gave her $150 for starting the spreadsheet. And that was really kind of moving and meaningful to me that, people are finding great value in this. Some other aspects of the story, she was brought into a room and talked to, and they said, you know what can happen because you've done this? And she said, nothing. There's absolutely nothing you can do to me legally. I mean, even if you have the ability to fire someone for no reason, it will not stand in court that you fire someone for doing something that is for the betterment of employees within an organization. And that was proven through the process. Several employees were forced to be given raises because of the spreadsheet, because they weren't at a market rate or on par with their equally skilled peers. So I don't know. It was just really, really fascinating to me. What do you guys think? Silence.
Silence with the little hearts.
Love it. Of course. Of course I love it.
It's beautiful.
Bold of her and very courageous of her. And it's equal pay. It's about, merit-based performance and making sure that is transparent. So I think there are benefits. The sad reality is that while it may not have been illegal, and all these things, and companies say it's fine, when it actually happens,
yeah,
fall out, right? And so it's tough for companies to deal with that. So my challenge to companies is have flash foresight, right? Encourage that transparency, and you be the one to say this is what constitutes this level of pay and this for your grade levels, and make it if you want to prevent any collateral damage, right?
Yeah, if there's something in your salaries that has to be hidden, then you're not doing it right. You've got to get to a point where it can be public, because it's got to be that in 10 years all salaries will be public everywhere. I mean, it's inevitable.
Or base it on equation.
How do you mean?
Well, the first company to share it, what was it, Box.net? There was when we were talking about this before, it was because a CEO not only shared his salary, but the formula that they use to calculate the salary, and then everyone else's salaries along with it, so that you could see not only that it applied, but they could check their math.
Right.
And I think if you base it on an equation, it's tough, right? Because there is no objective truth, or that's not another topic that we should have on this podcast. But it's I think that's the only way to actually get to transparency, is base it on objective data.
Yeah.
Or try to anyway, I guess.
Right, but you have to also remember that businesses run businesses, right? So there's also the element of salary negotiation and all that, and so if you're going to get to that transparency level and you want to make it more equal, then there's got to be there's a lot of things that impact that, right? So some companies run negotiation as a means to save money and be efficient with their budgets for staff. And if you're going to be transparent and make it based on an equation, then you have to take that away, and companies have to. I mean, there's so many ramifications, right? But and then there's the merit side of it and your performance and how that all works. I like the peer bonus idea. So there's all sorts of variables. So I don't think we can always blame the corporations for being sensitive.
I don't think we're blaming them. I think it's just a fact that all of those factors need to be dealt with. There's no way around it. If negotiation either has to be stopped completely, which we're starting to see happen as well, or you just have to live with the fact that negotiation is part of it, and there's going to be fluctuations in salaries based on some other factor, and have your employees be okay with that. It's the burn-in period. You're going to lose some people when you go public with this stuff, and then see what happens from there. And you're going to have to make sure it withstands public scrutination.
Absolutely. I see in the window there. this broadcast with a very cute munchkin.
Several munchkins, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we can fix on the podcast, of course. But I really love the idea. Okay, so here's what I think it is. I think in a small company, it definitely makes sense to make it based because it's so much easier to see impact on revenue to employee. So I think in really small companies or really rich companies where it doesn't matter how much you're paying people, they're still making so much money. But in a big company, like a large corporation, of course this isn't going to scale if you've got 200,000 employees. I mean, you have to negotiate that stuff. And if you don't, you're losing an edge. You are losing a competitive edge to overpay, especially when you've got a huge workforce that's as large as a continent or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, it's just like I said, public scrutination. If there's something that you're hiding that you don't want the public to see in your salaries, especially if it's, the females are being paid less than the males or something like that, then you better fix that quick because it will be public soon.
Yeah, you should be running this sort of statistical analysis on your wages already. If you're not, I mean, that's pretty basic in the talent management and recruiting space is compensation management. But you get there, or you get there, or you don't get there. One of the two.
Yeah, I mean, Chris used to say that run your company as if you're in DR mode, meaning everything's gone to hell, meaning everybody knows everything, right?
Sorry, I've got another child playing the iPad in the other room, and she's hooked up into the living room speakers, so some blasting music comes. I will go on mute again.
Is she going to join the podcast all on her own?
It's possible. Hey, Lucy, how many books have you read this week? Do you know?
20.
Yeah, it's probably more. She can't stop reading. She just reads. She pours through the books. And when it's this hot out, what are you going to do?
Awesome.
Give your kid more books. All right, that's how you hack business technology. Thank you for being here. Thanks for recording, guys. Great to see you again. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, everybody.